across the Bundesliga this season. And I think those two, as partners in crime in central defence, great backbone for Germany to work with. Joshua Kimmich and Maximilian Mittelstädt, the two sort of wing-backs, full-backs, depending on the formation. I think back four is looking pretty strong, especially with Manuel Neuer in goal. A lot of you think Marc-Andre ter Stegen should be the number one, but I think if Manuel Neuer is fit, it's always going to be difficult for Andre ter Stegen to Marc-Andre ter Stegen, excuse me, to get past him and make that number one spot his own. Trey Days from the United States pulling for Deutschland. Love from Guyana coming in from Toro Brezzi. Great to have you here as well. Abdul Hafiz, Wirtz and Musiala the future. Gaming Inc. almost too slow. Well, I think that's part of the thinking there as well. I mean, you'd hate to be Julian Nagelsmann and have to make those decisions, but they are decisions that need to be made. Abdelhafiz, Bayer, Gruda. Yeah, Brian Gruda not making the final squad. Both he and Rocco Reitz were called up to train as part of the provisional squad before the final squad was announced. I think most people expected the two players, Gruda and Reitz, who were called up from the under-21s, to probably not be part of the final squad. More of an experience gaining thing for the two youngsters. Yupadopa pointing out Manuel Neuer's skills on the ball. Well, he definitely changed the role of a goalkeeper, didn't he, Manuel Neuer? Some question marks over some of his performance of late, although me personally, I'm still a massive Manuel Neuer fan, and just what he brought to the goalkeeping department, the way he changed football, almost similar to the way, if you look at from a managerial aspect, the way Pep Guardiola changed football. All of a sudden everyone wanted to play the tiki-taka, play out from the back. Manuel Neuer, as a goalkeeper, one of the first really to be as good as he was and still is on the ball. Changed the way Bayern played football. Really comfortable on the ball. I mean, how many times have you seen Manuel Neuer drop a shoulder, lose the oncoming player? Made it look so easy, and distribute the ball beautifully as well. a must for any goalkeeper to be able to have that ability, have those skills. You rarely will see a goalkeeper become a number one, be it at club level or international level, unless they are good on the ball as well. And Manuel Neuer was, for me, one of the first to do it. So will always have a place in my heart, Manuel Neuer. From maybe the goalkeeping department. Other than that, I think the options they have available to them are just scary. So France definitely always up there for me. I think England are in with a shout, although I do worry about their defence and goalkeeping department. I think that's their only weakness. But midfield and attack also extremely scary. One of the best midfield and attack they've had in a long time. I think Spain is always a contender, and I'd have to say my dark horse was probably Portugal, because I think on paper as well they have a fantastic team, and they always seem to show up for the Euros, with or without Ronaldo. So those would be my main contenders, and then up there with them is Germany as well, of course, because I think playing in front of a home crowd, playing on home soil, not having to travel, the ease of having friends and family there to support you as well. I think these are things that aren't often talked about, but can make such a difference. And so I think Germany's in with a really good shout as well. And I think in the build-up, they've had some really good performances. Not their best against Greece, but like we said at the beginning, I think the final friendly before a tournament, you never know how much you can take from a performance there. I thought they showed great resilience and character to turn it around and win it in the end. But I'm not surprised that they weren't necessarily firing on all cylinders either, because you've got players that are desperate not to get injured just before the tournament kicks off. You're still sort of fine-tuning things from a management perspective as well. Still perhaps trying a few last things out. And I think at that point, you already know you're going to be at the tournament. So not getting injured, perhaps a little more important than the result. So that would be, it's a long-winded answer. I hope I haven't rambled on too much there, although it is my job to ramble here today and try and make this live stream a little bit more enjoyable for you guys. But that would be my answer there. Big fan of Germany. Love from Northbourne Nail. Siam. Germany is the greatest football nation of all time. Well, I don't think you can argue with what they've accomplished at international level. The goalkeeper, Netherlands, is quite good. That's a good shout. That's a really good shout. Another dark horse for me. The Netherlands, great squad. Really young and exciting players. And not too many people taking notice of them. Yeah, they could definitely do some damage. Nick N. Belgium. Yeah, Belgium. I think past performances for me are the only reason why I don't put Belgium in that same bracket as Germany, Portugal, France, England. Such a great squad, and have had such a great squad for a number of years now, but they just always seem to fall short. This Belgium squad almost reminds me of the England squad not too long ago that had Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, you know, everyone talking about on paper how this England team, the best they've ever had, should be winning tournament after tournament, but it just never really happened out on the pitch. And that seemed, I get the same vibes from Belgium, but on paper, yeah, I mean, they should be giving anyone a run for their money, really. Be interesting to see. I think Jeremy Doku, one of the more exciting players. Really looking forward to see what he can do. Brown can Wimby. Portugal can win the Euros. Definitely. Definitely. They always get themselves into the into the final stages, don't they? Sort of quarterfinals, possibly semi-finals, maybe even finals. Have to wait and see who will finish top scorer in the Euros. Coco. That's a great question. I think Mbappe always has to be in the conversation. Harry Kane, possibly, if England do well. Then you know if England do well, you know Harry Kane's finding the back of the net. Always does, always will. Even though perhaps a disappointing season for Bayern Munich, he still finished top goal scorer. What a goal scoring run he was on as well. Susi Baka, which country are you from? Not too far away from Germany, I'll put it that way. Who will be the best performer for the Portugal squad? Well, we are here to talk about Germany, but I will say, always been a big Bernardo Silva fan, and I think if he plays well, then Portugal will do well. Scooby Drew, will Undav be given a chance to start? I think it depends how Germany do in their opening 2 games. I think if they get back-to-back wins, we'll see Undav probably start the 3rd game. Huevos fritos. Taking notes for Team Spain, watching this training. Good to see that Spain have scouts everywhere, even in the YouTube chat channel. DeBear GG, tuning in from Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the stream. Nguyen Tuan, do you think Maximilian Bayer can be a prolific striker for Germany in the future? In the future, possibly. I think he's a really exciting player. Does just have the 1 cap at international level. So still have to wait and see just what he can bring, how his career unfolds and develops. But I think the early signs are there. That's why Julian Nagelsmann has picked him as one of his 5 attackers for the tournament. But personally, big fan of Maximilian Bayer. I think he has a very bright future, both at club level and for the international team. Alfonisfu can't wait to see Wirtz and Musiala, the attacking duo. Totally agree. I think those 2 players, incredibly exciting. And as already mentioned, if they have a good tournament, I think Germany will. Be great to see also how the balance of youth and the veterans in the squad, how that balance unfolds as well. The likes of Toni Kroos pulling the strings in midfield, and then the freshness of Musiala and Wirtz ahead of him. How will they link up? How will that balance work? I think a lot of question marks, but a lot of exciting ones, if you ask me. And if things click, well, Germany could be in for a great tournament. Scooby Drew, are you surprised that someone like Goretzka was left out? Normally I would say yes, but based on the season Goretzka had with Bayern Munich, I can't say I'm that surprised, to be fair. I think Robert Andrich from Leverkusen had an absolutely cracking season, and him getting the nod ahead of someone like Goretzka, I think is the right decision in the end, and thoroughly deserved. So very similar players as well, both very physical, big midfielders, although Andrich, I think, just has a little bit more in terms of distribution, also getting forward into goal-scoring positions. He's shown that with Leverkusen this season. It's can be a real box-to-box midfielder, and just gives you a little bit more versatility. Goretzka, for me, is just a little, without being in any way disrespectful, but doesn't have too many other sides to his game. What he does extremely well. I think no one can take that away from him, but I think Andrich just brings a bit more versatility to the table, and I think that's why he's that, and his performance, or performances all season for Leverkusen, the reason that he got the nod ahead of someone like Goretzka. Susi Baka, admin, did your country qualify for the Euros? Yes, they both did. To add confusion. Elton Nguyen, where do you think Germany will likely finish in the Euro? I expect them to be in the final four. I think it's hard past that point to know who's going to win it. I think once you make it to the semi-finals, anything's possible, anything can happen, regardless of what team you are. But I'd be surprised to not see Germany in the final four, simply based on the way they've been playing, and then they have that home advantage. I think that always plays a big part. It can be the Achilles heel as well. I mean, we've seen time and time again how countries at home struggle, but I think the support in Germany is a little more supportive, if you like, than it might be in other countries. I think it's, yes, it can be critical, but it's not the same kind of criticism as, let's say, an England or a France. I think should Germany perhaps not perform to the standard that people expect in game one, I don't think the entire country is going to come down on them as other countries might with their teams, and I think that's why the home advantage is even more of an advantage for a team like Germany than it would be for a France, for an England, and so on. Dervikus, how about Hummels? Are you surprised to not see him in the team? A little. Especially with the season he had, although Borussia Dortmund maybe didn't have one of their best seasons. I think Mats Hummels probably had one of his best at Borussia Dortmund, if that makes any sense. I think he was one of the main reasons they made it to the Champions League final. But then when you look at how they finished in the league, his lack of fitness and the fact that he's aging meant that he couldn't be as influential throughout an entire campaign. But the Euros, of course, is a tournament format. And someone like Hummels, even to just have his experience around, might have been a really big advantage. But I don't think the players that were selected are necessarily any worse than Mats Hummels. So I think Julian Nagelsmann has had a really tough job this season in selecting the Germany team. But I think he's done a good job. I think there's a really nice balance and a couple of difference makers in the team as well. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Lois Hughes, which country will be the biggest surprise? That's a great question. I think Hungary have got some exciting players. I think they're a team not too many people are talking about. They are, of course, in Germany's group, so let's hope they're not too big of a surprise. But seeing them perhaps finish second behind Germany, I mean, that could be a surprise to some people, especially with Switzerland in the group as well. Switzerland, another great shout for a team that could surprise quite a few people. I think Austria could perhaps surprise a few people. They've been playing some great football in the build-up to the Euros. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Plenty of candidates. Dennis Schofstad. Sad to see Gnabry with so many injuries this year. When he's in top form, he can be lethal. Definitely can be. Pace, power, has everything, doesn't he? Technically extremely gifted, and one of those players as well that when he finds some rhythm, he really seems to carry it. Is he capable of starting games and performing? Absolutely, absolutely. But for me, just based on the seasons they've had, Musiala and Wirtz deserve to start on either wing ahead of him. Lulu Al-Nasser, welcome to the chats. Nice to have you back. Questions about Scotland. Is Robertson the only player on the same level as Germany? Well, they do have one or two decent players. They've got Andy Robertson, of course, the Liverpool player. They've got Kieran Tierney, highly rated in the Premier League, formerly at Arsenal, still part of Arsenal, I believe, was on loan in La Liga for a season. Then midfield, you've got the likes of Scott McTominay. Not everyone's cup of tea, but probably one of the better performers in an underperforming Manchester United team. John McGinn at Aston Villa. What a season he's had. You've got young Billy Gilmore. Plies his trade with Brighton. Another really exciting young player. Then in attack, probably Shea Adams, their go-to striker up front. So they do have players that can affect games, that are experienced at an elite level. If we take, playing in the Premier League, I mean, you have to consider that, playing at an elite level. So I think not to be underestimated, the Scotland team under Steve Clarke as well. He's been their coach for a long time, so they've spent plenty of time with each other. It's a team that's gotten to know each other extremely well. It's a lot of bonds created within the side, so not to be underestimated, if you ask me. Kate Drake, Lewis Ferguson. Yeah, he's a big miss. Young Ferguson, really exciting young striker. Won't be part of it though. It's a big upset for Scotland. Lungani, Pascal Gross is what Germany needed. Yeah, big Pascal Gross fan myself. I've always enjoyed watching him at Brighton. And I think early in his Premier League career, I think his move over to England probably hindered some of his chances with the German national team. But then based on his performances for Brighton, he's almost given Nagelsmann no choice but to bring him along, and then also comes off the bench to score the winner against Greece on Friday. So I think he's one of the first choice substitutes, could perhaps even break into the starting lineup on match day 2. Definitely match day 3, depending on how things go. Nguyen Tuan, is Germany's midfield the best in the tournament? Well, when you've got Toni Kroos in your midfield, you're definitely in the conversation. Is it the best in the tournament? That's a tough one. That really is a tough one. I think England have got a really, really good midfield. I think France have a cracking midfield as well. And Portugal's midfield, is something that I think needs to be taken note of as well. Not too many people talking about Portugal, but for me, I think they really could do big things at this tournament. Scooby Drew, can you give some insight on the drills and games the players are going through here? I can do my best. As said, I don't think there's too much behind these drills. We saw some limbering up, some warming up, a few shooting drills, and now just small-sided games. It seems here they've got some neutral players. I think the three players in pink acting as neutrals, and you've got the team without bibs and the team with white bibs. And what this does is it creates numerical advantages or disadvantages for either the team without bibs or the team with white bibs. So in terms of defending, when you're at a disadvantage numerically, it forces you to sort of move as a unit, defend as a unit, keep things compact, try and push your opponents into wide positions and sort of close out those passing lanes through central areas, if you like. And then when you have the numerical advantage, using those three pink neutral players, how can you use that to your advantage? How can you create spaces? How can you stretch defenses? How can you find those gaps in the middle? So how can you sort of break up the compact shape of a defense and find those little pockets of space and use them to your advantage? So I hope that's somewhat of an insight. I myself am not a coach, but have watched quite a few training sessions in my time. And these small-sided games with neutral players usually focused on one of those two things, either defending as a unit at a numerical disadvantage and keeping your shape, forcing the opponents into wide areas, which then in a real game scenario would allow players to get back behind the ball, allow you to set up your shape again, and so on. Or if you're in possession of the ball, how do you create those pockets of space to really sort of hurt your opponent and do so quickly, right, before players can get back into position. So that, I think, the thought process behind this training session right here. Not to mention, it doesn't give away too much tactically, right? As we've already seen, we've got Spain scouts in the chat, and I'm sure there'll be a few scouts, although they say it isn't done. I'm sure it is, as we all know, that they will have their people watching these training sessions without a doubt. Servus from Singapore, Roy Heng Xuan. Nice to have you here as well. Zai Jia, do you think Ter Stegen will have a chance to start a game? Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think if Neuer's fit, he starts. I think that's already been proven in the build-up to these Euros and the friendlies that we've had. But then the goalkeeping position isn't the same as others where you necessarily want to rotate and give players rest. I think rotation for a goalkeeper can almost be detrimental. It can work in the opposite direction, right? You want your goalkeeper to be match fit, match ready, and if the first two games go well, it's not like Manuel Neuer is gonna really be extremely tired, right? You're not using as much energy or covering as much ground as a goalkeeper. And then do you want to rotate your goalkeepers, you know, break up that momentum? I'm not so sure you do. Then again, if Germany do win their first two games comfortably, do you give Ter Stegen a chance to impress? But then how does that help you in the long run if Manuel Neuer is going to come back into it after the group stage anyway for the fourth game? Is there any real benefit to bringing Ter Stegen in? Then let's say Ter Stegen has an absolute blinder of a game, although perhaps not important at that stage. Then he has a worldie in between the sticks, and then all of a sudden you've got half the country coming down on you as a manager, bringing in the discussion of should Ter Stegen start? Should he be ahead of Manuel Neuer? Then you have that discussion, then Neuer makes a mistake in game 4, and that just adds to the criticism. I'm not sure you really want to bring that in. So for me, unless Neuer's injured, I don't see a way for Ter Stegen to get into the team or start a game. Might be completely wrong. That's just the way I look at it, and I think you always have to see the big picture as a manager, and I'm not sure what benefit it would bring. because, as said, I don't think goalkeepers need to necessarily rotate or be given a rest, because they simply don't need a rest as much as outfield players do. Travis Malcolm tuning in from Jamaica. Welcome to the chat and the live stream. Great to have you here. Little one Nasser, do you know how to speak Arabic? I'm afraid I don't. Salam alaikum is pretty much as far as it goes, as well as malaikum salam. Well, that's about it. Graham Caldwell, afternoon guys from Scotland. We have a Scotland fan in the chat as well. Looking forward to the opening game of the tournament. Don't think we're strong enough to get anything. Hope to be competitive and take that into the other two games. So a realistic approach from Graham. Welcome to the live stream and the chat. Great to have you here, Graham. And thanks for the input as well. Jorge from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Great to have you here as well. Icarus from Indonesia. People from all around the world tuning in. The Mannschaft with fans from all around the world as well. Great to see and great to have you all here. Susi Baka, what was your country's best ever finish in the Euros? Not too high, shall we say. Chris from EU. Who do you think will finish second if Germany places first? Probably France. MW. How does the date 1966 make you feel? Well, I wasn't around then, so I don't feel too much, but not too great. MW. Good day all the way from Toronto. Arex Builds, great to have you here as well. Elton asking, where are they training at? They are in Bayern at the moment, at the Adidasler Sportplatz. In Herzogenaurach, to be precise. Will be their home for the group stage at least, but most likely throughout the entire competition as well. Great setup here. Working together with Adidas for this training centre. Tantan and Rudiger have showed domestically that they're up there with some of the best in club football at the moment, especially on form. Joshua Kimmich at right back, which is where he played against Greece. Well, I mean, always he's a proven player on the biggest stage, be it club level or international. And then I think Maximilian Mittelstädt has shown, with the chances he's been given by Julian Nagelsmann, that he's not afraid to impress and has been a really exciting addition to Germany's defence. And then you've got Manuel Neuer in goal. I mean, if you are a defender, you're probably not going to be more confident than those four, knowing that Manuel Neuer is behind you. More shooting practice for die Mannschaft here, which usually suggests the session is slowly but surely coming to a close now. Thomas Müller watching on. That kicker is Havertz, a proper centre striker, centre forward like Füllkrug, Undav and Bayer. No, I think he's not, but we did talk about at the beginning of the stream, perhaps you weren't here for that, lead kicker. Havertz, very much a modern attacking player, and the future of football in terms of being able to play anywhere across a front 3 or 4, including the number 10 role. And I think it's that versatility that probably just puts him ahead of the others. And then, of course, you can always then go back to bringing on a Füllkrug and Undav Abaya if you need that out-and-out striker in a game. Not to mention, you can then also bring them on in addition to Havertz if you want to go with a front 2 maybe. And then that allows someone like a Füllkrug to play just slightly ahead. Havertz sort of lurking in and around the shadows of a classic number 9, feeding off scraps. Füllkrug holding up play. Havertz, you know, in and around him. Just gives you so many options. Baked Bean, Germany getting smashed on Friday. Obviously a Scotland fan in the chat as well. Well, you never know. Sandipan, Manuel Neuer is not the Manuel Neuer of 2017. Well, no, perhaps not. But it is still Manuel Neuer. And I'm sure most countries would more than happily have him in goal if they could. Lulua, Ronaldo or Messi? Well, it is the question everyone seems to ask. It's a hard one for me because they're so different. My answer is always, I'm simply happy to have been alive during a time where Ronaldo and Messi were out there playing football. And I think you can't have one without the other. I think they brought the best out of each other. So it's almost a 2-for-1 kind of package for me. Tashfin Azam, who should be Germany's penalty takers. That's a good shout, especially at these tournaments. Sometimes penalties make the difference. I think Füllkrug, Havertz, Kimmich, Gündoğan and Andrich would be my 5. Rodney Warwire, will you trust Kimmich as a right back in big games? Well, did start in that position early on in his career. Has developed into more of sort of a holding or defensive midfielder. I think he has plenty of experience in that position and can more than do a job there. So yeah, I'd say I would trust him at right back. Aren't too many players I can think of that, in terms of experience, ability, and having the right mindset, would probably be ahead of him. Maybe you've got some suggestions, feel free to put them in the chat. Nguyen, is this the final international tournament for Neuer and Müller? Müller probably more than Neuer. I think goalkeepers just seem to go on forever. For Müller, I think this might be his last tournament. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see if he can finally get on the score sheet at the European Championships as well before he bids farewell.